Live across Queensland, this is 7 News with Max Futcher.
Good afternoon. Our top stories on 7 happening now. A man shot and killed by police in Tingalpa. We have the latest live from the scene. The death toll in the Middle East climbs as both sides count the cost of war. Long lines to fill up over fears of the impact on the fuel supply. And an inquest examines the actions of police before a Gold Coast mother's murder. We begin with a developing story, and police have shot and killed a man in Brisbane's east. Let's go live to Rachel Baxter in Tingalpa. Rachel, police say the man was armed with a knife.
Yeah, that's right, Max. Good afternoon to you. Police were called here to Thurston Street in Tingalpa at around 10:30 this morning to a welfare check. It's understood that officers tried to negotiate with a 21-year-old man, but witnesses say that he did have a large kitchen knife and lunged at police. Officers tried to deploy a taser, but that was ineffective and the man was shot. Police did try to render first aid and CPR, but sadly that 21-year-old man died at the scene. Here's what police had to say.
I'm confident that the use of force used is appropriate given the circumstances. These types of incidents are a reminder to us, a clear reminder of the inherent danger that our police face across the state on a daily basis.
Now, the street here in Tingalpa has remained closed and will remain closed at least for the rest of today. The Ethical Standards Command is investigating. Now, an officer was injured in this incident this morning, but we are told that he will make a full recovery. Max?
Rachel Baxter with that report. America is warning the hardest hits are still to come as the war in the Middle East intensifies. As fighter jets bombed Tehran, Iran hit back, targeting the US Embassy in Saudi Arabia. Right now, Iran is threatening to set fire to ships in a crucial strait. Chief reporter Chris Reason is in Tel Aviv.
Well, that's right. Good afternoon. It is another extraordinary development from here with the US State Department declaring that all US citizens needed to leave the entire Middle East region now. The only problem being, of course, that there are very few ways to do that. The list of countries they're saying needs to be cleared includes Egypt, Israel, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, Syria, UAE. The list goes on. Now, the bombings continued across Lebanon and Iran. In Lebanon now, the death toll there up to 52. Iran, US forces saying they've sunk the majority of the Iranian Navy, 9 ships sunk. Now this morning, Lebanon is blanketed with thick smoke. We can see the plumes of dark clouds above that country from the south all the way up to the capital Beirut. Iran is now warning that they will set fire, quote, to any ships trying to pass through the Straits of Hormuz. That, of course, has massive implications as a critical oil and gas route there, implications for our petrol prices at the Bowser in Australia. Now, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited a site where 9 people killed just outside of Jerusalem on the weekend while sitting in their bomb shelter, we might add. Now, he says it's going to be a quick and decisive war. Let's listen to some of what he had to say.
I said it could be quick and decisive. It may take some time, but it's not going to take years. It's not an endless war. In fact, it's an effort right now to achieve the peace that we all yearn and pray for. And I think together we'll achieve it.
Now, yesterday, 7 News got access to a key IDF headquarters here in Tel Aviv, Israel, to talk to senior leadership there. While we were mid-interview, sirens sounded, and all of us had to race off to military bunkers underneath that HQ. Now, before the interview was cut short, the senior commander pushed that message again, that it was better for Israel, the United States, to do something now than do nothing. There was a window of opportunity to roll this regime. He had a special mention for Australia. Let's listen.
We're fighting for freedom, for stability, and we're fighting an enemy that turns off the internet and massacres their own people and lies to the world about us. And it's an Israeli problem right now. It could be an Australian problem tomorrow.
Now, also overnight, worrying news at a military base in the UAE, 40 kilometres outside of Dubai, Al Manad, which is the base and that houses at least 100 Australian troops. I've been there. It's been a key part of our forward deployment for decades now. Well, that's been hit by an attack from Iran. Richard Miles assuring everyone there is safe.
They are all safe and accounted for. We have all the scenarios in mind and we are preparing as best we can for them.
We've got new details and images too on that extraordinary scene when we saw 3 F-15 Strike Eagle fighter jets over Kuwait, American jets being shot down by friendly fire, Kuwaiti Patriot missiles taking them down. All 6 crew managed to parachute to safety. Incredible moments as they landed on the ground and locals rushed towards them. One pilot was threatened until he revealed he was American. So US President Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu insisting this will not become a forever war and that it could be over in 4 to 5 weeks. But everybody here is saying that the effects will be felt long after that. Back to you.
Chris Reason in Tel Aviv. Meanwhile, the US president has issued a terrifying warning that a big wave of more attacks on Iran is yet to come as strikes escalate across the Middle East. Donald Trump is also not ruling out putting American forces on the ground. Rob Scott reports from Washington, DC.
Well, today we saw Donald Trump make his first public comments on camera since authorising the strikes on Iran 3 days ago. Speaking at a medal ceremony at the White House, he described the offensive in Iran as America's last best chance to remove what he calls a sick and sinister regime. He says it should take about 4 or 5 weeks to achieve all of Operation Epic Fury's mission objectives, but the US military has the capacity and the capability to go longer if necessary.
We're already substantially ahead of our time projections, but whatever the time is, it's okay, whatever it takes. We have the strongest and most powerful by far military in the world, and we will easily prevail.
The president also now revealing he would have no issue with deploying US boots on the ground in Iran if necessary. The Secretary of State Marco Rubio warning the new leadership in that country that the next wave of American strikes will be the hardest.
The hardest hits are yet to come from the U.S. military. The next phase will be even more punishing on Iran than it is right now. The world will be a safer place when we're done with this operation.
Pete Hegseth, the U.S. Defense Secretary, has sought to downplay fears that this will be another so-called endless war. He says it won't be, and he says that this is not another Iraq.
Turns out the regime who chanted death to America and death to Israel was gifted death from America and death from Israel. This is not a so-called regime change war, but the regime sure did change.
So an interesting comment there from Pete Hegseth saying that this is not another regime change war, which is obviously flying in the face of a lot of what Donald Trump has been saying over the past few days, that was one of the objectives of this whole operation, was to change the leadership group in that country.
Rob Scott in Washington, DC. And British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has granted the United States permission to use British air bases during the ongoing conflict. However, he's refused to commit British forces, saying his country has learned from the Iraq War. Here's Ben Downey in London.
Yes, he has. Keir Starmer telling British Parliament the reason why UK didn't follow the US and Israel in these offensive Iranian strikes is that he can't commit British troops to any military action unless he's certain there is a sound legal and well thought out plan behind it, effectively saying that America doesn't have such a plan. Now, before entering politics, Keir Starmer was an international law expert, and up until this war, he had resisted heavy American pressure to allow the US military to use British RAF bases for such a war effort. But as since this attack broke out, he's actually relinquished quite a bit, saying the US can now use these RAF bases, but only for limited defensive strikes against Iranian missile sites. Now, despite that, because of his initial reluctance, Donald Trump and the US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth have accused him of clutching his pearls and saying that he was too passive, criticising him for that critical delay. But Keir Starmer was adamant, talking to the British Parliament, says his government does not believe in regime change from the skies.
I am not prepared to commit our military service people to action unless I am sure that what they're doing is lawful, and has a viable basis.
Britain here is effectively desperate to avoid a repeat of what happened in Iraq, following the US on bad information that left the country with disastrous consequences, but it has sparked some political friendly fire across both sides of the Atlantic.
Thanks, Ben. Well, some commercial flights have started taking off from Dubai and Abu Dhabi, where the majority of Australians are stranded due to the war. Josh Martin reports from Parliament House.
Good afternoon. The situation remains touch and go for stranded Australians this afternoon. The Foreign Minister says this is the biggest consular operation in Australia's history. Penny Wong says Iran's drone and missile attacks on the United Arab Emirates are making the situation particularly complicated. The airports in Abu Dhabi and Dubai are usually safe zones but have come under attack. There are currently 115,000 citizens in the Middle East, and normally 11,000 Australians pass through the UAE every single day. Minister Wong has called her counterpart in the UAE, who has confirmed his country is accommodating and feeding stranded Australians. Those on the ground say communication has been poor, and the sister of Nationals MP Colin Boyce has also been caught up in the crisis.
The number of affected Australians dwarfs any consular operation the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade has ever conducted. UAE and airlines are working hard to put flights on for travellers when safe to do so.
There were lineups for hours and hours to try and get accommodation, lineups for hours to get on a bus to accommodation.
From a personal note, I actually have a sister that was in Jordan going on, and she's now in Egypt and flying to Ankara in Turkey. She actually got out via a ferry along with another 2,000 people. That was quite a ordeal for her.
The Albanese government says all Defence Force and consular personnel have been accounted for after an Iranian drone hit the Al Minhad air base in the UAE. Israel's new ambassador to Australia has also welcomed Anthony Albanese's statement of support for Operation Epic Fury.
It was a good statement. It was supportive. They took the right side of history in this aspect. There's no request for others to join. It's a campaign which is taken upon by the call of history.
Well, we support the US-led action here. I mean, at its core, this is about preventing Iran from ever being able to acquire a deployable nuclear weapon.
Meanwhile, Canada's Prime Minister has touched down at Sydney Airport. Mark Carney will address federal parliament on Thursday. No doubt he will raise the Middle East conflict in that speech and in private conversations with Anthony Albanese.
Thanks, Josh. Well, there have been long lines at petrol stations as drivers rush to fill their tanks amid concerns about global oil supplies due to the Middle East conflict. Many service stations have also increased the price of fuel during the day as demand soars. Adding to concern is Australia's low fuel reserves. Only 36 days of supply is stored. We'll have more on this story a little later in the bulletin. Kelly Wilkinson was a mother of three who was stabbed and set on fire by her estranged husband in their Gold Coast backyard. Now an inquest is examining the police's interactions with Kelly in the lead up to her murder. Garth Burley has more.
Good afternoon. Kelly Wilkinson's murder sparked an outpouring of support across Queensland and prompted calls for more improved police responses to domestic violence. Now officers are being grilled about how the service handled Kelly's complaints about her estranged husband. The 27-year-old was stabbed, then set on fire by former US Marine Brian Johnston at her Arundel home in April 2021. He pleaded guilty to murder and was sentenced to life in prison in the Brisbane Supreme Court in 2024. An inquest in Southport today heard how Kelly frequently contacted police about her estranged husband in the weeks leading up to her death. She was given a police protection order against Brian Johnson. A coroner heard on one occasion when she reported a breach, the officer thought Kelly was, quote, cop shopping to get the outcome she wanted. The same day, Brian Johnston was charged with raping Kelly. The investigating officer incorrectly gave him police bail. Then, less than 2 weeks later, Kelly was killed. This probe will examine whether the QPS has made appropriate changes to its DV responses. The inquest is expected to run for another 2 days and we'll hear from a number of witnesses.
Now for a look at the weather, and Tony, the monsoon is going to have a big impact on Queensland in the coming week.
Yes, Max, that is the case. It's all quiet for now, but that could be a very different story in coming days, including for the southeast. Right now, that monsoon is sitting over Cape York Peninsula. Here we do have a low spinning up about 750 k's off the coast with a second system in the Gulf of Carpentaria. The Gulf low is likely to move west, so I'll skip that for now and focus more so on the Coral Sea. This low has a 25% chance of becoming a tropical cyclone, but either as a low or a weak cyclone, it's expected to cross the coast between Cooktown and Townsville around Friday. As it does, it'll drag this monsoon trough across the coast, bringing rain right down towards the Wide Bay by Friday night, and plenty of wet weather extending further inland too. Then, over the weekend, the low is most likely set to recurve back across towards the coast. That would drag more rain with it. In this scenario, the rain could be heavy enough to bring at least some flooding right down to southern Queensland. Of course, all of this can still change, so please keep weather aware in coming days. Max, I'll be back soon with tomorrow's forecast.
All right, thanks, Tony. Still to come on 7's afternoon news, the hunt for two arsonists. See the moment they hurl flaming projectiles into a Mackay business. Tempers flare in court as the Clintons deny any wrongdoing in the Epstein scandal. And later, could the Middle East conflict drive up inflation? The warning about the economic impacts. In 7 News, Queenslanders queue for fuel amid fears war will erode reserves. Police shoot a man dead on Brisbane's Bayside. An arsonist singed, torching a tobacconist. The shark tech to keep swimmers safe, so does it work? And one-on-one with Reece Walsh. He reveals what he won't do. 7 News at 6. Two masked arsonists have been filmed hurling flaming projectiles at a tobacconist in Mackay last Friday. The men almost set themselves alight when one of the burning objects hits the front window and bounces back, exploding at their feet. The store was in flames and spreading to neighbouring businesses when police arrived. It's been targeted 4 times in just 2 months.
We're conducting investigations in relation to all 4 offences, but we certainly believe that those 4 offences are linked.
Police are appealing for information as investigations continue. Both offenders remain on the run. Videos have been released of Bill and Hillary Clinton's depositions about Jeffrey Epstein. They both denied any prior knowledge of Epstein's crimes, and at one point Hillary Clinton became visibly angry.
Releasing all 9 hours of the depositions of Bill and Hillary Clinton as part of their investigation into Jeffrey Epstein.
Have you ever engaged in sexual activity with a person introduced to you by Jeffrey Epstein?
No. Bill Clinton testifying he had no knowledge of Epstein's crimes, and he had no reason to believe that President Trump knew anything either.
The only conversation I had with President Trump about this was in the early 2000s. And I have no information that he did anything wrong.
Clinton pressed by both Republicans and Democrats about his repeated appearances in the Epstein files, including this photo of him in a hot tub with a woman.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Did you engage in any sexual activity with this person?
Both Clintons have denied any wrongdoing and have never been accused of any crimes related to Epstein. The former Secretary of State's deposition got off to a rocky start when she discovered Congresswoman Lauren Boebert took a picture of her and shared it with a conservative influencer.
I'm done with this. If you guys are doing that, I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home.
She denied ever meeting Epstein, at times growing visibly frustrated with the questioning.
I am so tired of answering that question. If you have one scintilla of evidence to the contrary, put it forward. I have never been on his island, period. I've never been in his homes, his offices, his anything.
Republicans asking her off-topic questions on issues like UFOs and even internet conspiracy theories.
Savannah Guthrie has made an emotional return to her missing mother's home in Arizona, where police believe the 84-year-old was abducted a month ago. The USA Today show host was seen embracing her sister and brother-in-law and laying down yellow flowers. Later posting a photo of the growing floral tributes to Instagram with the caption, "Bring her home." Meanwhile, local investigators say they are closer to finding Nancy Guthrie. Just ahead on 7 News, Bindi Irwin joins forces with Queensland Police. Her message to motorists this World Wildlife Day. And in sport, the Broncos named their first team for their title defence.
Inside Operation Epic Fury.
This is a serious escalation.
Chief reporter Chris Reason live from the Middle East.
War spills over into yet another country.
And the most experienced team breaking down every detail. Special coverage from Sunrise, then 7 News, every night at 6.
Bindi Irwin has teamed up with Queensland Police for World Wildlife Day to remind drivers to slow down for vulnerable road users. Every year on March 3rd, the United Nations celebrates wildlife's contribution to the world. Australia Zoo's message this year: to stay alert for our furry friends and kids alike.
So whether they jump, leap, walk or run, our young ones deserve our utmost attention and care on our roads.
An estimated 10 million native animals are killed on Australian roads every year. Let's have a look at sport now with Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Max. Good afternoon, everyone. Michael Maguire's stuck firm with a well-beaten World Club Challenge team and named playmakers Adam Reynolds and Ezra Mam to face the Panthers despite an injury cloud lingering over the duo. Expect an even better Reece Walsh when the Broncos' premiership defence kicks off Friday night at Suncorp. The Clive Churchill medalist has spent the off-season studying rival full-backs in a bid to become the complete package.
Trying to make the foundation of my defence, really strong. You look at someone like Clint Gutherson that's always working his backside off and always in position.
We'll have more from that interview at 6. In Redcliffe, English international Morgan Knowles has been locked in to make his NRL debut against Souths. The two Toms, Flegler and Gilbert, round out the Dolphins' middle third. Lions coach Chris Fagan has a selection headache looming, with premiership stars being challenged by young guns banging down the door. But while Brisbane is again the hunted inside the den, it's a week at a time.
We try and be the hunters every week. I think we take it week by week, and that's something the club's done really well, and Fags has led by example.
Coming up at 6, a closer look inside the selection conundrum, and the Suns hit the beach with a wave of new fans. The Matildas will offer all the support they can to Iran when they face off in the Asian Cup at Rabina Stadium on Thursday night. Amidst the ongoing conflict in their home nation, the Iranians lost their opening game 3-0 to South Korea. The Aussies are full of sympathy for their opponents.
It's really brave of them to be able to be here and to perform. The best we can do to contribute is to just give them the best game of football that we're able to, show them the respect on the field.
The Matildas then face South Korea in their final group game on Sunday. Max, on a good note, footy's back. Bit of excitement in the air, isn't there?
Sure is. OK, thanks, Steve. After the break, the death toll rises in the Middle East. Will Trump put troops on the ground? The impact of the conflict on our cost of living. And after the weather, when to look to the sky to see tonight's blood moon.
Live across Queensland, this is 7 News with Max Futcher.
Returning now to the situation in the Middle East, at least 6 American servicemen have been killed, with President Trump not ruling out sending in ground troops. This report from NBC.
New strikes across Tehran as the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran is expanding, systematically destroying Iran's military, blowing up its missiles and killing its leaders. President Trump saying it could last 4 to 5 weeks.
We will easily prevail. We're already substantially ahead of our time projections, but whatever the time is, it's okay.
The Pentagon today announcing it's sending more troops and fighter jets to join the operation. But the war is also spreading to new countries with new risks. In Kuwait, 3 U.S. fighter jets were shot down and seen plummeting from the sky. The Pentagon said it was friendly fire, that the jets were hit by Kuwaiti missile defense systems. The crews all ejected and survived, as the Pentagon announced at least 6 American service members have been killed. The Pentagon saying it now has total air superiority over Iran, allowing the U.S. to hunt down the missile launchers Iran is using to carry out attacks, including against Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu touring a town where 9 Israelis were killed by another Iranian strike. The Washington Post reporting over the past month, Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has urged President Trump to attack Iran, according to 4 people familiar with the matter. In addition to Ayatollah Khamenei, the U.S. says 49 leaders from the Iranian regime have been killed. Iran has not confirmed all of the deaths. While inside Iran, officials say a girls' school was hit this weekend with dozens killed. The U.S. says it's investigating, as President Trump laid out the objectives of the U.S. mission.
We're destroying Iran's missile capabilities, and you see that happening on an hourly basis. Second, we're annihilating their navy. We've knocked out already 10 ships. They're at the bottom of the sea.
For now, no U.S. ground troops appear to be involved, although the Pentagon is not ruling them out.
This is not Iraq. This is not endless. I was there for both. We'll go as far as we need to go to advance American interests. But we're not dumb about it. You don't have to roll 200,000 people in there and stay for 20 years.
Well, a small number of flights have departed from the United Arab Emirates, raising a slight hope for travellers caught up in the Middle East air closures. As Laura Turner reports, this crisis for air travellers still has a long way to play out.
Well, there's currently still more than 100,000 Australians stranded in the UAE. Some flights did manage to take off from Dubai and Abu Dhabi overnight, despite that airspace remaining closed. But this wasn't really of assistance to Australians. These were Etihad and Lufthansa repatriation and cargo flights taking off from there. It was all pretty hush-hush, and they took off very quickly to get out of that airspace, landing in cities like Paris, like Munich and Amsterdam as well. Australians are now being told directly by DFAT, do not travel to the UAE. And if you are there, shelter in place. Here's the Foreign Minister.
We have 115,000 people and that is a lot of people to try and to assist. And the best way of getting people out will be for commercial flights to resume. So we will look at when that is likely. We're obviously engaging with the airlines on this.
Now, Emirates and Qatar are still not taking off from that airspace, at least for the next day or even 48 hours, and that is an ongoing rolling and changing situation. There are some specially approved flights out of there via Etihad, but they are very minimal at the moment. For Australians wanting to travel to Europe, the advice is at the moment you still can via Cathay Pacific or Singapore Airlines and some of the Chinese airlines too.
Reserve Bank Governor Michelle Bullock has delivered a stark warning. If the conflict continues, inflation and interest rates will remain high. It's set to create even further household strain as drivers rush to fill up before petrol spikes. Here's Consumer Affairs Editor Georgia Holland.
Good afternoon. Well, drivers across the country are getting in quick before that expected rise to prices at the petrol stations. Here in Brisbane, we've had a steady stream of cars. There's a line out onto the main road. While in Melbourne at a Costco servo, the tanks actually ran dry as drivers took advantage of the $1.56 per litre on offer. And that price is set to jump to well above $2 a litre.
The wholesale price for regular unleaded it's gone up 3 cents a litre, but we do expect that to continue to go up.
The concern is the Iran conflict and the oil price shock that's come with it that could increase inflation here, putting even more pressure on households, pushing up prices and interest rates. Reserve Bank Governor Michelle Bullock says it's not obvious how this might play out, but in a world of geopolitical uncertainty, things can change quickly.
If this is a very prolonged conflict, and there is a very, very elevated and lengthy rise in energy prices, this ultimately is going to feed through into economic activity.
Well, of course, it depends on how long the fighting lasts. President Trump most recently said 4 to 5 weeks. That would have a very big impact, most directly on travel and tourism.
The cost of petrol, transport, even food could all climb. We will have more details for you tonight at 6.
Georgia Holland there. Well, there's been a fiery clash in Parliament as debate on controversial hate speech laws gets underway. Let's go to State Political Editor Marlena Wop. Marlena, a Labor MP is in the spotlight.
Yeah, Max, the government has made serious accusations about Cairns MP Michael Healy over Facebook posts about Israel. Now, it happened during question time before debate about the hate speech laws started. The Deputy Premier, Jared Blay, tabled 2 posts criticising the Labor MP for liking a post which labelled Israel a terrorist state, also seizing on comments made under the account name of Heels Mick, which said that diplomatic engagement with Israel should cease, quote, as we did with Germany during World War II.
Equating the state of Israel and its relationship with Australia as Nazi Germany that killed 6 million Jews. He is a disgrace. What is the Leader of the Opposition going to do about the member for Cairns? The member for Cairns is an anti-Semite. He is an anti-Semite.
You were warned. Speaker, member for Cairns. I take offence and I ask that the member withdraw. Member's taken personal offence. I withdraw. I have deep connections with the Jewish community and I stand against vile acts of anti-Semitism and racism and always had. I will always voice my concerns about what is happening in Gaza, in Israel, in Iran, in Ukraine and anywhere where innocent lives are being indiscriminately lost.
Now, the opposition leader Stephen Miles has called the government's focus on Michael Healy a distraction from last-minute changes to the hate speech legislation. After recent backlash about what it would mean for freedom of speech, the government will now legislate to ban 2 phrases, from the river to the sea, and globalise the intifada, instead of giving the Attorney-General widespread regulation powers to outlaw any phrase in the future. I'll have more coming up at 6. Max?
Thanks, Marlena. There are fears for local reptile populations after the discovery of a deadly fungal pathogen that's being spread through the soil. For more on this, I'm joined by University of Queensland PhD candidate Sam Gallagher-Becker. Sam, thanks for your time this afternoon. Now, you've been studying the impact on water dragons, so how serious is this fungal infection?
It's pretty serious. We know a few things about it. One, it affects a broad range of reptile hosts, so it potentially threatens many reptile species across Australia. It's also got the potential to infect from the soil and survive in the soil for a really long time. So this can be spread across the country quite easily, infect a lot of different reptiles, and it probably is already quite widespread since we know there are affected populations in Brisbane, Dubbo in New South Wales, and even all the way over in Perth in WA. So it's quite a serious threat, I would say.
What sort of damage can be done to these populations, and for that matter, what can be done to prevent it spreading further?
Well, in terms of damage, it's hard to predict. One, because it's so variable between species. The outcomes are very different depending on the species. One thing we know is that it could potentially pose a significant extinction risk to some reptile populations. What could be done to prevent the spread? I would say first what we need to do is map the actual distribution of this disease around the country. So where is the disease present in reptile populations? Then we can set about putting in effect some strategies to prevent contaminated soil and just maybe contaminated animals or diseased animals from moving between populations. That should hopefully prevent the spread of this disease.
All right, well, you're asking for help from the public, so what can we do?
One thing that would be really great is that if people are out and about and they see some dragons or reptiles that they see they think might be diseased with this pathogen, if they can take some photos of that and then send it through to us at the university, that would be really great, because then what we can do is we can cross-reference that with our database and get an idea of potentially where this disease might be in areas where we can't readily sample or access. So that would really help us with mapping the distribution of this pathogen.
All right, Sam Gallagher-Becker from the University of Queensland, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
A reptile wrangler has described how he trapped a juvenile crocodile in New South Wales. Billy Collett spent 2 days looking for the croc after it was spotted in a Newcastle waterway. He recounted the moment he caught it earlier today on Sunrise.
Turn the boat around and he's right there.
And so we're trying to control ourselves. Oh my God. And I just centred, launched off the front into the darkness, grabbed him about here. I managed to grab him, I come up and I felt like I won the lotto.
Caretakers say the crocodile may have been an escaped illegal pet. Coming up on 7 News, hopes of better screening for ovarian cancer, how a Queensland-led trial could detect the disease much earlier. And could ditching meat altogether reduce your cancer risk?
Inside Operation Epic Fury.
This is a serious escalation.
Chief reporter Chris Reason live from the Middle East.
War spills over into yet another country.
And the most experienced team breaking down every detail. Special coverage from Sunrise, then 7 News, every night at 6.
Scientists in Queensland are trialling a breakthrough test that could become a general screening tool for ovarian cancer. The research focuses on microscopic bubbles released by cells that can signal the presence of cancer. The study will also look at the effect storage and transport have on cancer biomarkers in samples. 1,500 women will trial the test, which has shown 100% detection rates. And cutting your consumption of meat and upping your intake of veggies can dramatically reduce your risk of cancer. A new study found vegetarians are up to a third less likely to be diagnosed with 5 types of cancer, including breast and prostate. However, the research found vegetarians are nearly twice as likely to get esophageal cancer, and vegans are at greater risk of bowel cancer. Checking finance now, and the ongoing Middle East conflict is keeping investors on edge, sending the local share market tumbling. Here's James Tao from ING Bank.
Good afternoon. The ongoing conflict in the Middle East and fresh inflation concerns have rattled investors, triggering a large sell-off. The ASX 200 sank 124 points, down 1.3%, with losses spread across the board as 3/4 of the top 200 stocks finished in the red. The materials sector was the biggest drag, with a number of gold miners giving back some of yesterday's improvements, and interest rate sensitive sectors like consumer discretionary, real estate and technology also slid after RBA Governor Michelle Bullock warned the central bank may need to act sooner than previously thought if rising oil prices keep pushing inflation higher. Markets are now expecting a roughly 1 in 3 chance of an interest rate hike at the RBA's March meeting in a fortnight's time, compared to about a 5% chance just yesterday. Meanwhile, energy was the lone bright spot, lifting on fears of tighter global oil supplies. And the Aussie dollar has also firmed on those shifting rate expectations, holding just above 71 US cents.
Thanks, James. Apple is making another play for budget-conscious customers with its new iPhone. The iPhone 17e has more storage in its base model, an improved modem and a scratch-resistant screen. It follows flat consumer spending and increased competition in the smartphone market. Leaks suggest the company is also preparing to release a new affordable MacBook within weeks. Counting down to tonight's rare blood moon, we'll tell you when to head outside to catch this special event. And a few more sunny breaks across the southeast today. This is a look at Brisbane right now. It's currently 29 degrees. Tony has the forecast next. In 7 News, Queenslanders queue for fuel amid fears war with the road reserves. Police shoot a man dead on Brisbane's Bayside. An arsonist singed, torching a tobacconist. The shark tech to keep swimmers safe, so does it work? And one-on-one with Reece Walsh. He reveals what he won't do. 7 News.
Good afternoon, Queensland. You're watching 7 News. Checking the weather now, and we've had a bit more sunshine in the southeast today. Still the odd shower on the coast, but barely anything has registered in the gauges. A top of 29 degrees in Beerburrum. Now, across the state, we still have this monsoon in the far north. It's brought heavy rain, over 300 millimetres to areas around Mossman overnight. And at the moment, we have a low pressure system spinning up about 750 k's off the coast. Tomorrow, not too much change. That monsoon keeps things drier on the coast as it keeps the focus for rain out offshore. We'll still see a bit of storm activity over Cape York Peninsula, then more isolated showers rather extending right along the east coast. Of course, we are expecting much bigger weather from about Friday with a possible cyclone and plenty of rain extending through the weekend. Around the capitals tomorrow, possible storm around Sydney and Canberra, tops of 29 and 28 degrees, and hot in Perth, sunshine 36 and staying pretty hot there until Saturday. For northern Queensland, the calm before the storm, literally. We're looking at a few showers, most likely for Mackay, the Whitsundays in Cairns, a bit less likely in Townsville on 32 degrees. Then rain likely from late Thursday or Friday. And of course, we do have that chance of a cyclone crossing the coast in the tropics. Heading south, well, still a couple of showers along that coastal stretch from around Rockhampton down towards Gympie, most frequent around the Gladstone area on 31 degrees. Rain most likely from Friday through the weekend. In the southeast, still a couple of sneaky showers around, most likely for the Sunshine Coast. We could get a couple of rounds, one early and then another one late in the day, but still plenty of sunny breaks in the mix there and staying warm. 21 up to 30 degrees in Brisbane, and Max will have the latest on that monsoon and cyclone risk, all coming up at 6.
All right, we'll see you then, Tony. Thank you. Well, don't forget to look to the sky tonight for a special celestial event. The moon will be red, a so-called blood moon, turning during a total lunar eclipse when the Earth moves between the sun and the moon. It'll be visible right across Australia, but the best time to look up in Queensland will be between 7:50 and 9:50, with the total eclipse due at 4 minutes past 9. And good news, Tony just assures me there'll be clear skies, so you should get a good view. That's Queensland's afternoon news for this Tuesday. Thanks for your company. Stay with us now for the chase. Then I'll see you for 7 News at 6. Bye for now.